The St. James police have confirmed that a body fished from the sea in Reading, St. James yesterday is that of social media influencer Anika Townsend, popularly known as Slickiana. The 35-year-old, who's from Waterloo Road in St. Andrew, was positively identified by relatives this afternoon. Senior investigator told TVJ News they are following strong leads in the case. It was reported that sometime after 9 Friday morning, a group of beachgoers discovered the body of Miss Townsend floating in the water and summoned the police. Investigators say she was strangled by her killer.
For learning more about a gruesome murder that shocked an entire nation, police say it involves a social media influencer and a man she thought she could trust. Anika Slickiana Townsend, a 35-year-old influencer and mother, was discovered lifeless, floating in the waters of Reading, St. James, Jamaica. Her body, partially clothed and bearing signs of violence, was a haunting discovery that left her family and followers reeling. What happens when a vibrant life is suddenly cut short by someone she trusted? What secrets led to this tragedy? How does a woman so full of life and plans for the future meet such a violent and untimely end? One moment she was Anika Townsend, a rising star loved by thousands, and the next she was gone. No explanation, no goodbye, just silence. What could have happened in those final hours? This is the story of Anika Slickiana Townsend, a social media sensation, a mother and a woman who lived authentically. Her disappearance and brutal death have left friends, family, and a nation desperate for answers. A woman who visited Montego Bay but never returned home. This is a story of trust, betrayal, and violence, a story that unraveled through shocking evidence and a search for truth. The suspects revealed it all in a chilling confession. Who were the people Anika trusted? What events led to her final moments? And why would someone take her life in such a horrific way? Stay with us as we uncover the details behind this devastating crime.
Kindly support us by subscribing to this channel. Hit the notification bell icon so you won't miss our latest videos.
Exposing betrayal, calculated actions, and a case that continues to demand justice. This story is filled with twists, turns, and motives that will leave you stunned. The morning of October 21, 2022, a chilling discovery shook the quiet community of Reading in St. James, Jamaica. The body of 35-year-old Anika Slickiana Townsend was found floating in the sea, partially clothed and lifeless. It was a scene that left both the authorities and the public horrified. Anika, a beloved social media influencer known for her vibrant personality, had been silenced in the most brutal way imaginable. Preliminary reports revealed disturbing details. Wounds to her head and neck provided undeniable evidence of a violent struggle. Her body was retrieved by marine police, and nearby investigators found personal items including a wig and a towel, items that would later play a significant role in piecing together her final moments. Forensic teams immediately got to work, determined to uncover what had happened during the hours leading up to her death. A post-mortem examination conducted on November 5, 2022 confirmed the worst. Anika had been strangled. Her time of death was estimated to fall between the late evening of October 20 and the early morning of October 21. These findings pointed to one conclusion: this was no accident. The evidence painted a grim picture, but it also raised even more questions. How did Anika end up in the waters of Reading? Who was responsible for her death, and why? Investigators began retracing her steps, determined to uncover the truth behind the tragedy. They learned that Anika had traveled from Kingston to Montego Bay on the evening of October 20 to meet a man named Rushan Chizzy Patterson. The discovery of Anika's body marked the beginning of a case that would captivate an entire nation. But it was only the start. What happened in those final hours of her life? What secrets would the investigation uncover? The answers would not come easily, but the search for justice had begun. To piece together the tragic story of Anika Townsend, it's crucial to follow the steps she took on October 20, 2022, a day that began like any other but would end in unimaginable horror. Anika, known for her lively spirit and captivating online presence, left Kingston that evening with plans to visit Montego Bay. This wasn't a random trip. It was one she had planned to meet a man named Rushan Chizzy Patterson, someone she thought she could trust. The journey from Kingston to Montego Bay is a familiar one for many Jamaicans, a path that winds through bustling towns and scenic coastal views. Anika's trip seemed ordinary on the surface, but as investigators would later learn, this was no ordinary evening. By 7:30 p.m., Anika and Patterson were seen together in Hanover, seated at a restaurant. Witnesses described a scene that gave no indication of the darkness that would follow. Anika was smiling, engaging, and full of the energy her friends and followers knew so well. The meal passed uneventfully, or so it seemed. Ere leaving the restaurant, the two made their way to a guest house in St. James. This was where the evening began to take its fateful turn. Behind closed doors, the atmosphere shifted. At some point during their time at the guest house, an argument erupted. The exact details of what sparked the conflict remain unclear, but what followed was an escalation that no one could have predicted. Authorities believed that the argument turned physical. Patterson, a man Anika had trusted enough to meet that evening, attacked her. Investigators would later determine that she had been strangled, a deliberate act of violence that left no chance for survival. It was an act that spoke of rage, of intent, and of betrayal. Anika, a woman who had brought light to so many lives, was gone. Patterson's actions didn't stop there. Rather than seeking help or facing the consequences of what he had done, he made a chilling decision. He carried Anika's lifeless body from the guest house, driving to the waters of Reading in St. James. There, under the cover of darkness, he discarded her into the sea. Her body, partially clothed and bearing the marks of violence, was left to the tides as if to erase any evidence of the crime. The timeline of these events became clearer as investigators dug deeper. The hours between 7:30 p.m. on October 20 and the early morning of October 21 were critical. Anika had gone from sharing a meal in Hanover to becoming the victim of a brutal crime, her life stolen in the most horrific way. Forensic experts worked tirelessly to reconstruct her final moments, gathering evidence from the guest house and the scene where her body was found. The discovery of Anika's body in the waters off Reading on October 21 marked the beginning of a national outcry. But for investigators, it was just the start of a complex case. Why had Patterson, someone Anika trusted, turned on her? What had led to the argument that ultimately ended her life? As they searched for answers, one thing became clear. This was no accident. Anika Townsend's death was a calculated and deliberate act of violence. Her final hours, pieced together through witness statements, forensic evidence, and painstaking investigation, reveal a tragic story of betrayal and loss. Anika's journey to Montego Bay, meant to be an ordinary visit, had turned into her final destination. But even as the details of her murder began to surface, the deeper questions of motive and accountability remained unanswered. Who was Rushan Patterson, and why had he taken the life of a woman so full of promise? As investigators continued their work, Anika's family and friends were left grappling with the unthinkable. The vibrant woman they knew and loved was gone, her life ended far too soon. The public, too, was outraged, demanding justice for Anika and answers to the questions that haunted them. What led to this act of violence? And how could someone so full of life and potential meet such a senseless end? The search for justice had only just begun. On November 2, 2022, just over a week after Anika Townsend's body was discovered, the investigation reached a pivotal moment. Rushan Chizzy Patterson, the man believed to have spent Anika's final hours with her, was apprehended in a high-level police operation. His arrest was the result of relentless work by investigators determined to bring justice to Anika and her grieving loved ones. For many, this marked the first step toward holding someone accountable for her brutal death. Following his arrest, Patterson was formally charged with murder on November 11, 2022. The charge came after thorough consultations with the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions and the Jamaica Constabulary Force's Legal Services Division. The evidence against Patterson, including forensic findings and witness accounts, painted a grim picture of the events that had unfolded on October 20th. Authorities were confident that they had their prime suspect, but the case didn't end there. Investigators also uncovered evidence implicating a second individual, 47-year-old security guard Rohan Early B. Rose. Rose was charged with misprision of felony, a legal term for concealing knowledge of a crime. His involvement, though less direct, highlighted the lengths some were willing to go to shield Patterson from justice. This additional arrest emphasized that the case was not just about one person's actions, but a network of decisions that allowed this tragedy to unfold. The arrests came after an exhaustive investigation involving multiple agencies. Forensic experts meticulously examined evidence collected from the crime scene, including personal items recovered near Anika's body. Cyber forensic teams analyzed digital footprints tracing Anika's movements on the night of her death. From phone records to location data, every piece of information helped reconstruct the timeline and connect Patterson to the crime. One key breakthrough came from the Communication Forensic and Cybercrime Division, whose expertise allowed investigators to confirm critical details about Patterson's whereabouts and interactions on October 20. These digital breadcrumbs provided undeniable proof that he had been with Anika in her final hours. But the role of physical evidence was equally important. Items like the wig and towel found at the scene, became silent witnesses, revealing the brutality of the crime. Despite the arrests, the case was far from over. Patterson and Rose's charges marked the beginning of a legal process that would face significant delays and challenges. The public, meanwhile, watched closely, demanding accountability and answers. How could someone so full of life meet such a tragic end? And would the justice system deliver the resolution Annika's family deserved? As the case progressed, one thing was clear: the fight for justice would require more than just arrests. It would demand the full weight of the legal system and the tireless efforts of those determined to uncover the truth. Annika Townsend's death had shocked a nation, but it also galvanized a movement, a collective call to ensure that her story would not be forgotten. The pursuit of justice for Annika Townsend, a case that had already captured national attention, began to encounter significant roadblocks as it made its way through the legal system. By October 2024, 2 years after her brutal death, the case was still mired in delays. Critical documents, including the post-mortem and DNA reports, remained outstanding. Without these key pieces of evidence, a trial date could not be set. For Annika's grieving family and friends, the wait for answers felt interminable. These delays were not just procedural, they were a source of profound frustration for the public. People across Jamaica, still reeling from the loss of Annika, questioned why such an important case was progressing so slowly. The cries for justice grew louder as each court appearance brought more rescheduling and postponements. For many, it was a stark reminder of the challenges within the legal system, where bureaucracy often clashes with the urgency of delivering justice. Adding further complexity to the case was an unexpected development regarding the health of the accused, Rushawn Patterson. Diagnosed with a suspected case of hemophilia, a rare and serious condition affecting blood clotting, Patterson's medical needs became a focal point during court proceedings. His defense team argued that his condition required specialized care that could not be adequately provided in police custody. The court, faced with this humanitarian appeal, granted Patterson bail in July 2024. The decision to release Patterson on bail was met with widespread outrage. Many viewed it as a betrayal of Annika's memory and a setback in the fight for justice. To her supporters, the court's focus on the accused's health overshadowed the brutal reality of the crime and the need for accountability. Annika's family, already burdened by grief, now had to contend with the knowledge that the man accused of her murder was no longer behind bars. At the same time, legal experts defended the court's decision, emphasizing the importance of ensuring a fair trial even for those accused of heinous crimes. The legal system, they argued, must balance compassion and justice, a task that is never easy, especially in high-profile cases like this one. These delays and complications raised difficult questions. Was the system failing Annika Townsend, or were these steps necessary to uphold the integrity of the judicial process? How could justice be achieved when the road to resolution seemed so fraught with obstacles? For the public, the delays only deepened their resolve to see justice served. Annika's death had sparked a movement, and her supporters were determined to keep her story alive. As the case moved forward, one thing was clear: justice for Annika Townsend would not come easily. The path was long, the challenges immense, but the fight for answers continued. Her loved ones and a nation that mourned her loss held on to hope that the system would ultimately deliver the accountability they so desperately sought. Annika Townsend's death sent shockwaves through Jamaica and beyond, sparking outrage, heartbreak, and a collective demand for change. Across social media platforms, her followers turned their grief into a powerful outcry, flooding her posts with messages of love and sorrow. Annika and her ability to connect with people from all walks of life had left an indelible mark. Her tragic end was a loss felt not only by those who knew her personally, but also by a nation that had come to see her as a symbol of resilience and self-expression. In the wake of her death, conversations about violence against women took center stage. Vigils were held in her memory, and protests erupted across the island, calling for greater protections for women and stronger measures to combat gender-based violence. Annika's story was no longer just about one woman. It had become a rallying cry for justice and accountability. Her death was a stark reminder of the dangers women face, even in the spaces where they feel safest. Those who knew Annika best remembered her as a woman who lived unapologetically. "She was such a genuine soul," said Kareem Weathers, one of her closest friends. "Annika had this rare ability to live in her truth, no matter what. She touched countless lives just by being herself." These sentiments were echoed by thousands of her followers, who mourned not only the loss of a beloved influencer, but the silencing of a voice that had inspired so many to embrace their own authenticity. Her legacy extended beyond her online persona. Annika was a mother, a friend, and a woman with dreams that were tragically cut short. Her death highlighted the urgent need for systemic changes to protect vulnerable individuals and hold perpetrators of violence accountable. Activists and community leaders used her story to amplify their efforts, pushing for reforms and engaging in widespread education campaigns to combat violence against women. But Annika's story also posed an important question. How can communities come together to prevent tragedies like this from happening again? Her supporters argued that it would take more than laws and policies. It would require a cultural shift, a collective commitment to safeguarding women's lives and creating environments where they could thrive without fear. Lisa's family and friends continued to mourn. They found strength in the movement her story had inspired. Annika's life, though cut short, became a beacon for change, reminding everyone that her light could not be extinguished as long as her story was told. The outpouring of love, support, and determination to honor her memory was a testament to the impact she had made. Today, Annika Townsend is remembered not just as a victim of violence, but as a catalyst for action. Her death, while tragic, has become a symbol of the ongoing fight for justice and safety for all women. As Jamaica continues to grapple with the lessons her story has revealed, the question remains, will her legacy lead to lasting change, or will it be another moment lost in the tide of time? The answer lies in the hands of those who refuse to let her memory fade. As the years passed, the investigation into Annika Townsend's murder remained a focal point for law enforcement, the media, and the public. On January 11, 2025, Rushawn Patterson, the primary suspect in the case, once again appeared before the St. James Circuit Court. Despite the mounting evidence against him, the legal process continued to move at a frustratingly slow pace. The hearing ended with Patterson being remanded in custody, and the court set the next date for March 21, 2025. Field involved in an uncovered headache. Meanwhile, investigators continued to uncover new details about Patterson's potential involvement in other crimes. Authorities revealed that he might be linked to additional violent incidents, further cementing his reputation as a dangerous individual. In response, the Jamaica Constabulary Force issued renewed public appeals for information. They urged anyone with knowledge of Patterson's activities or other relevant details related to Annika's case to come forward. The role of the community in advancing the investigation became more critical than ever. This public cooperation is a vital part of cases like Annika's. Investigators rely not only on forensic evidence and witness statements, but also on the courage of everyday people to speak out. Annika's story resonated with so many because it touched on a universal truth, the importance of standing together against violence and injustice. The outpouring of tips and information from concerned citizens demonstrated the collective determination to see this case resolved. As the investigation unfolded, Annika's family and supporters continued to advocate for justice, refusing to let her story fade into the background. For them, each new court date was a painful reminder of the tragedy they had endured, but it was also a step closer to the accountability they so desperately sought. Their resolve became a symbol of hope, inspiring others to fight for change in their own communities. Beyond the courtroom, Annika's case reignited discussions about systemic failures and the broader societal issues that contribute to violence against women. Activists called for reforms, from improved protections for vulnerable individuals to increased funding for forensic and investigative resources. Annika's story, they argued, was not an isolated incident. It was a symptom of deeper issues that needed to be addressed. The path forward remains uncertain. With each court appearance, the public anxiously awaits answers, closure, and justice for Annika Townsend. But as the legal proceedings continue, one truth stands out. This case is not just about seeking punishment for a crime. It's about honoring Annika's memory and ensuring that her death was not in vain. Justice is not just a destination, it is a journey. And Annika's story serves as a powerful reminder that the fight for accountability and change is one that requires persistence, courage, and unity. Will justice for Annika Townsend finally bring peace to her loved ones and a grieving nation? Or will her case become another unresolved tragedy in the annals of history? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain, her legacy has already begun to reshape the way we confront violence, demand justice, and protect the most vulnerable among us. Annika Slickiana Townsend was so much more than her online persona. She was a mother, a daughter, a friend, and a woman whose light shone brightly in every space she entered. Her life, filled with love, laughter, and ambition, was tragically cut short in an act of violence that left a nation heartbroken. As her family, friends, and supporters continue to grapple with her loss, her memory remains a powerful force for change. Annika's story is a sobering reminder of the dangers that women face and the consequences of misplaced trust. But it is also a call to action, a demand for accountability, justice, and meaningful change. Her legacy is carried forward by those who refuse to let her voice be silenced, those who stand together to say, enough is enough. The societal impact of Annika's death goes far beyond her immediate circle. It has sparked national conversations about violence against women, the shortcomings of the justice system, and the need for community solidarity. Aneka's name is now etched into the hearts of those fighting for a safer, more just world, a world where tragedies like hers can be prevented. But as we reflect on her life and the movement her story has inspired, one question lingers. Will justice for Anika Townsend finally bring closure to her grieving family, her friends, and a nation that mourns her loss? Or will the echoes of her story serve as a lasting reminder of the work that remains to be done? If you have any information that could assist in this case or others like it, please contact Crime Stop at 311 or your nearest police station. By sharing what you know, you can help bring justice to the silenced and prevent future tragedies. Anika's story reminds us all of the importance of speaking out, standing together, and creating a safer world for everyone. Anika Townsend's life was a beacon of hope and authenticity. While her time was tragically short, her story continues to shine a light on the importance of justice, unity, and the fight for a better future. Thank you for watching and honoring her memory with us today. Let her story inspire us to demand more, do better, and never forget the lives we've lost.